Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and thanks everyone for joining us today here at Great Garment Graphics for our webinar series, which is Get to Know Your Materials. And today we're presenting Get to Know Nylon, everything you need to know to decorate nylon. If each of you who are in, if you could just type in your chat box if you can hear me okay. I want to make sure that the audio is working just fine. My name is Jody Weiler. I'm your presenter today. Just a brief history about me. Okay, great. I see. Good. Okay, good. Everybody can hear me. I have been a customer service representative, actually a custom logo representative with Stalls. This is where I originally started. And then I moved into the web marketing department and am currently an education specialist in the areas of mainly heat printing. And I also, having worked here, have done an excessive amount of heat printing, made tons of mistakes, and have learned that practice makes perfect. And no, you should not be able to see me. You should only be able to hear me. So before we begin, just a couple housekeeping notes. Number one, a lot of attendees always want to know, maybe you're doing other things during this webinar. They want to know if it's going to be recorded. Maybe you can't stay for the whole session. All of our webinars are recorded, and you'll be able to view them at greatgarmentgraphics.com. I will also make available a PDF of the slides. And then I also, for your questions that you put in, whatever questions I can't answer, whatever things sort of, since it is an organic type of webinar, whatever new topics sort of develop, I often include in my post-webinar blog post. So you can do one of two things. You can go back to Great Garment Graphics and look for the recorded webinar under the archive tab, or you can also, what would be easiest actually is going to Great Garment Graphics and signing up for the blog, and you'll get it right into your inbox, the slides, the recording, and the blog post, and then that way you'll actually also be able to get all of our blog posts, which highlight a ton of valuable information for the beginner decorator and for those who have been in business for quite some time. So let's get started. Today, since we're getting to know nylon, our agenda, I'm going to present a brief history of nylon, different types of nylon, because there are so many different, we hear that word nylon and it actually means so many different things. We'll explain and discuss the industry jargon in terms of nylon, also which decoration processes will work with nylon, what heat printing materials that Stahl's ID offers when you're printing on nylon, and then finally finish with some application tips and the accessories you will need in order to heat print with nylon. So a brief history of nylon. Nylon fabrics are extremely strong, lightweight, non-absorbent. And if I didn't mention it also, I'm sorry, I don't mean to backtrack, but if you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into your chat box and I will address them either as we go along or I will address them just in the final 10 or 15 minutes of the webinar. Whatever is not covered, I will email you personally or I will cover in the blog. So nylon fabrics are extremely strong, lightweight, and also non-absorbent. Nylon is currently the most synthetic used fiber in the U.S. Nylon was invented in 1935 by Wallace Carruthers. You can see his picture right there on your screen, an employee of the DuPont Corporation. It was the first successful polymer, the first synthetic fiber to be made entirely from coal, water, and air. Nylon fibers were said to be as strong as steel and as fine as a spider's web. Hence, you see the next picture of nylons, women's hosiery, which just kind of exploded on the market. In 1942, nylon then went to war in World War II in the form of parachutes and tents. And the military, typically for their tires, ponchos, ropes, and other military supplies, used to use Chinese silk. And because Chinese silk was so expensive, they started implementing the use of nylon in order to create the parachutes, the ropes, the tents, and so on and so forth. And if you'd like to learn more about nylon, I actually included a great link that will give you the actual history of DuPont and nylon as it refers to using it in the military. So we have different types of nylon, and that can be where things get confusing. So when we refer to sport and ripstop nylon, that's usually when you hear the term woven nylon. So those are sort of interchangeable. And by woven nylon, it means it's tightly woven, which is a sport or ripstop nylon. And ripstop nylon actually uses a special reinforcing technique that makes it resistant to tears and rips. So during that weaving process, thick reinforcement for threads are interwoven at regular intervals in sort of a crosshatch pattern. And then definitely one thing to research when printing on ripstop nylon is it may possibly have waterproofing properties, water-resistant properties, or fire-resistant properties. And all of these elements can impede on the printing process, and that's whether you're screen printing, whether you're sublimating, or whether you're heat printing onto nylon. So one of the general industry tricks of the trade, and this isn't anything that is, what do I want to say, certified, but what many heat printers use in order to, so the first thing to do is definitely research. Is the nylon that you're getting ready to heat print on, does it have any of these additional properties such as waterproofing or water resistance or fire resistance? And oftentimes one of the tricks of the trades is to use just a plain rubbing alcohol on the area that you are getting ready to heat print in order to remove the that impediment, because it will interfere with your heat printing process. And always test, obviously. So you first want to test on an area that you're not going to heat print, on an area that's not visible, or on an extra garment that you have of the same material, and then try that, and oftentimes that does work. So that's in no way like industry certified or tested, but I do know that it is sort of common practice in heat printing. And we can see that sport and ripstop nylon has a ton of uses. So I also have images in addition to, and what I want you to think about is when you look at all of these images, these backpacks, these tarps, outerwear, totes, flags, windsocks, banners, yacht sails, each of these things can be printed. And when you look around, you see logos on all of these things. So in the garment industry, it's typically been like, how do I print on nylon, particularly with screen printers? And so heat printing is definitely allowed all of these materials to be applied and logoed and decorated where they weren't able to be before. So the next type of nylon is Cordura. And Cordura was also developed by DuPont and was originally known as rayon. So if you hear the word rayon, that's sort of the old name for it, but those terms, Cordura and rayon, are interchangeable. Cordura can either be a 100% synthetic, or it can also be blended with natural fibers. Cordura is another heavy type of heavy-duty nylon, also known for being long-lasting, resistant to abrasions, tears, and scuffs. And if you can believe it, we have boots that are made of Cordura. You can see the motorcycle outfit. That is all made of Cordura because it's so resistant to abrasions, tears, and scuffs. We have bulletproof vests. We have military apparel, that military backpack, luggage. And again, all of these are blank garments waiting to be logoed and decorated. Then we have nylon tricot. And nylon tricot is actually a type of fabric that's created by a machine, and it uses a warp knit pattern. And so you can see it adds that sheen to the nylon. And so this means that the fibers that make up the fabric actually run the entire length of the fabric rather than the width in a sort of zigzag fabric. So specifically, nylon tricot is a tricot fabric made from synthetic nylon. So most nylon tricot actually uses 100% nylon, although some of them use a blend of nylon and other fibers, such as rayon, cotton, or we can also see it here in all of these, I'm guessing, are a mixture, have added lycra or spandex. And so these images here, we've got cyclist shorts and dancing shorts. We've got a skater gown. We've also got a bathing suit bottom, and that's actually nylon tricot. Nylon tricot is also used in hunting apparel, several undergarments, gowns, suitcase linings, dance, skater, and swimwear. And then also sewing enthusiasts are crazy about nylon tricot. So again, here we have several blank garments waiting to be decorated. So when we think about, so when we explain the terms, okay, so now we know essentially the three different types of nylon. And then now we hear denier. We hear the word denier so much. And I actually have wondered for a long time, what is denier? Denier specifically refers to the thickness for cordura, rayon, nylon, and silk fabrics. So the higher the number of the denier, the thicker the material is. And so that's definitely a guideline for you. So when you're looking at American Apparel or wherever you order your apparel from, when you see denier, you'll know exactly what it means. So moisture wicking. Most of us, I think of moisture wicking as being polyester, but that's not exactly true. Moisture wicking can either be nylon or polyester. Moisture wicking, actually, the actual term just refers to any fabric, some fabrics, any fabrics, that have the ability to absorb sweat from your skin and then pull it through to the outside of the garment. This ends up leaving your skin dry and comfortable, allows the sweat to evaporate more quickly off of the top of the garment. So both nylon and polyester actually have the capacity to wick moisture. So when we talk about moisture wicking, it's actually really a process that the garment can do more than it is of an actual garment. So this term alone has absolutely no effect on the adhesion of any printing process. But is a natural ability of some fibers. And so moisture wicking can oftentimes be mixed with cotton. And as we can see here on the cyclist's uniform, that's actually 80%, 82% nylon and 18% spandex. So that's 100% synthetic. And then we've got the football pad holders or the football undergarments. Those are nylon and spandex mixed. And then the glove, and you can see that's actually been logoed, and that's actually a moisture wicking nylon with nylon cordura. So again, these garments have are all either waiting to be decorated, or you can see they already actually have been decorated, which proves that nylon is a decoratable material, whereas before many were very hesitant to actually print on it. So when we talk about porthole, mini, and micro mesh, really that just refers to the size of holes. So porthole mesh is actually the largest size of hole. That's typically used for football jerseys, and you can see the little laundry bags when you send your kids to college. Those are porthole mesh. And then all the way down to mini is a medium-sized hole. And then we've got micro, which is the tiny holes, which is actually what that basketball uniform is made of. And most basketball and lacrosse jerseys are made of micro mesh. And mesh can also be nylon or polyester. And so it's important to always ask your decorator what mesh it is. Is it nylon mesh or polyester mesh? Because that's going to dictate, number one, the process you use. And if you opt for heat printing on it, it's going to dictate the material, the heat printing material that you use. Some accessories that you definitely want to use, which we'll talk about at the end, but I mentioned now, whenever you're decorating mesh, always use a heat printing pillow inserted into your jersey. That way you don't have adhesion on both sides because of the mesh, and you don't have any, drip through, I guess, but that's probably not the right term for it. And then also, obviously, a nonstick cover sheet, which some use in place of the heat printing pillow to place in between the both sides of the jersey. But that's a little more complicated. I don't know. It works just fine, but a heat printing pillow would actually be easier. But you can use either. So when we talk about dry fit, AeroCool, and Cool Mesh, these are actually trademarked or brand terms that refer to a type of jersey, which can also be nylon or polyester. So again, you always have to ask. But These have been added with some natural fibers, so such as maybe cotton or different natural fibers in order to make them a little more breathable, a little bit more comfortable. And Dry Fit is actually trademarked by Nike. You can see their shirt on there. So whenever you see Dry Fit, it's going to be a Nike garment. So these are just sort of trademarked or brand terms. They're not actual types of fabric. But either way, when you hear these, they're always going to be polyester or nylon, so you definitely need to ask. And because they add the natural fibers to these materials, to these dry fit, air cool, or cool mesh, it actually makes it a little more breathable and comfortable, which I already mentioned, and so it allows the person to cool down more quickly. So as you can see, oftentimes it's used on baseball jerseys because obviously they're playing a lot of times outside, and and soccer jerseys. So the next question is, well, which decoration process should I use for nylon? And most decoration process can be used with nylon with either some amendments, some additions, some other additives that you may need to add. And so when screen printing, you will definitely always, you can screen print onto nylon, but you will need to add a Nylon additive in order to screen print. And I'm sure a lot of you are wondering if you can use screen printed transfers, let's say from Transfer Express. And I did inquire about this the other day, and they don't really have a transfer that is for nylon, but they have said that some of their customers have had success with using goof-proof. But you always, always, always must test because as we've just learned, there are so many different types of nylon and so many additives and fibers that they add into the nylon with different percentages that, you know, that really it's just sort of, again, just kind of like the alcohol on the fireproofing or the waterproofing. It's sort of just something you have to test and figure out for yourself, but it's nothing that Transfer Express would promote. Let's just put it that way. You can also embroider onto nylon, but it can be tricky. You also, as you can see in the bottom left corner, you will need to adjust your hooping and add certain other stabilizers in order to be able to embroider onto nylon. And if you just Google embroidering onto nylon, there will be several blog posts where people have done it and they will show you how to do it and what adjustments they made with their machine, with their hoop, with their thread in order to accomplish that goal. Now, sublimation typically requires 100% polyester, absolutely. But when I was doing some research, and I don't know if any of you go on to t-shirt forums, but it's just an invaluable resource for anybody in the garment industry. And I did see that some printers have had success using nylons, but again, it's really more reliant on testing and whether the type of nylon that you have can actually withstand higher temperatures. And sublimation, as you know, or maybe don't know, but it also requires a heat press in order to cure your inks. So you have to make sure that whatever nylon it is that you're using can be cured at a lower temperature and can also be, actually can be heated at a lower temperature and heat pressed at a lower temperature. Now for heat printing is actually an ideal process for nylon, A, because there's so many materials available for it, and B, because it's not as messy as screen printing. And while you can screen print onto nylon, for sure, adding the Nylon ink, what do you do when you have a smaller run, let's say 1 through 1, 12, 15, even 25 shirts that you don't necessarily want to add the additive to your ink? It's ideal for heat printing because there's so many heat transfer materials that apply to nylon with these, and you can also use digital materials on it, so you can also create full color designs with no mess and that are guaranteed to heat apply. So the heat transfer materials that are actually available for nylon I have listed here. So now that we know what nylon is, what nylon mesh is, what nylon cordura is, and there's also actually a reference sheet on stalls, which I have the link for. That is a heat transfer material comparison sheet, which kind of has check marks for every material that's available. And one thing to keep in mind, and this just almost anything that will apply to nylon, nylon mesh, or Cordura, any heat transfer material will already be compatible with cotton, polyester, polycotton blends. So if you have a material that's good for nylon, nylon mesh, or Cordura, you can also use it for cotton, cotton polyester, and cotton poly blends, which makes it a great heat transfer material and a great material to keep in your shop because it'll apply to so many different substrates. So if you are looking to print in for mostly the construction industry, police and fire, school, and so on, 3M Scotch Light Reflective will apply to nylon, nylon mesh, which is good to know. And then carbon fiber is also, actually it's a material that looks like it is almost a mesh material, and that will apply to nylon and nylon mesh. Fashion Reflect, which doesn't have as many properties, as many reflective properties as 3M Scotch Light Reflective, but it is really more geared toward the fashion industry because it doesn't necessarily meet safety standards, but it does have reflectivity properties. Will go on nylon and Cordura. Gorilla Grip 2 is the original. That is the original material that went on nylon. But as you can see, for whatever reason, Gorilla Grip isn't necessarily compatible with polyester, although it is good for cotton and cotton poly blends. Now, Gorilla Grip 2, I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago, whenever, not the last Olympics, but the Olympics before that, so it had to be longer than that, the Summer Olympics. Actually, China, all of their swimsuits and their warm-ups were used decorating Gorilla Grip 2. So for a one-color or two-color design that is a swimsuit or a warm-up, Gorilla Grip 2 is actually a great material to use for that. And then we have pressure-sensitive poly twill, which will go on nylon, which mostly will be used for embroiderers. So you would want to refer to, or if you're already an embroiderer, I have somebody who's having a hard time hearing. So can each of you just type in that you can still hear me? I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's just her login. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay. So pressure sensitive, okay, good. Pressure sensitive poly twill typically would be used, like I said, for embroiderers. And then we have Thermo grip, which is great for nylon, nylon mesh. And then silver reflective, which is another material that Stahl's ID offers that has more reflective properties than Fashion Reflect, but not quite as many as 3M Scotch Light Reflective. So if you were doing something, let's say for a school or just decorating, even for just kind of neighborhood sort of activities that require a silver reflective but don't necessarily need to meet safety standards, then silver reflective would be a great option for you because it's more cost effective. And then Sport Film Light, that's a newer material we added just a couple years ago, which is great for nylon and nylon mesh. And then my personal favorite, Super Film, which I actually did a job with woven nylons. They were nylon jackets for a bookstore and also for, it wasn't a bookstore, but it was like for an organizing company because they worked outside a lot, organizing garages and whatnot. And I absolutely love the weedability, the printability, the softness of hand of Superfilm. It's truly one of my favorite heat transfer materials to work with. It is not really compatible with 100% cotton, which I think I mentioned here. So it's pretty good on everything, but don't try to apply it to 100% cotton. I already did it for you. You can thank me later. They all fell off. So I definitely learned about not adhering to 100% cotton for that. And then these heat transfer materials I have listed are for nylon only. So you wouldn't really want to use them with Cordura, which or with nylon mesh, which makes sense because they're all twill materials. We've got the perma twill. And the difference between these twills, the glacier twill is actually a twill that has, what's the word I'm trying to use? It has like a pattern on it. So it almost looks like a prism type pattern on it. And then poly twill is just our most basic poly twill. Permatwill is polytwill, but it can also be cut by a laser. And so when you cut it with a laser, you don't have to sew it. So several of our materials, like what we call sublimated twill at Stahl's ID, our digitally printed permatwill, those are all using permatwill, and it's great because you can cut it with a laser. If you just cut it with a cutter, you're still going to need to sew it. But if you cut it with a laser or an engraver, or if you get it cut by us, you don't need to sew. So you get the properties of twill without having to sew, which is great for the decorators who either don't have embroidery capacities, or for their customer that doesn't really wants the look of embroidery but doesn't really want to pay for embroidery. And then we have the pressure sensitive poly twill, which has a sticky sort of backing. And so what that does is, poly twill is actually the most cost-effective twill, but if you want to save time and labor, you want to move into pressure-sensitive poly twill because of the sticky backing of it. You can actually layer the twill without having to, so when you hoop one time, or two times, you can actually have it adhere without having to use a nonstick, the spray adhesive. And so you can hoop once, really, instead of having to hoop twice. So for the difference in cost, it absolutely saves every embroiderer I know time, money, labor. And then the uncoated poly twill is actually, I guess, what some may refer to like as a chino twill. So it is actually uncoated. So it doesn't have any type of backing, any type of adhesive backing on it. And that would, you could use it on nylon, but you wouldn't be able to really heat print it because it would be sewn. It can only be sewn. So now when we talk about digital transfers, there are several digital transfers. So if you're moving from a one or two color design that you want to heat apply onto nylon, and you can use all those materials that I just listed there. When you move into full color designs, you probably want to get into a digital transfer. And some of the benefits of a digital transfer is they're versatile and you can easily stock them. They will apply on dark fabrics. They have great color reproduction. They're durable. And you wouldn't have to pay a per color fee. So for a smaller run, they're actually a perfect option for, let's say, 12, 15, even 30 shirts as opposed to screen printing them, whatever job it is that you have. So here's just some examples of the solution, the digital transfers. And then out of the digital transfer materials we have available, the ones that you would be able to use for nylon would be opaque. And the opaque actually is for dark fabrics. But the nice thing about opaque, in addition to going on, we don't really recommend it for 100% cotton. But in addition to, polyester, polycotton blends, nylon mesh, I also have listed Cordura, leather, and neoprene. Solutions opaque I have seen applied on notepads. I've seen it applied on leather jackets. I've seen it applied on pad folios. So not only garments that you can wear, but also hard goods that that you can heat print onto them, where you previously wouldn't be able to get a logo on it before, or you would have to contract it out to a promotional products distributor or contractor. Then you could bring it in-house. So you can actually use Solutions Opaque in order to apply onto several hard goods. And then sublock, you would opt for sublock when you're using a highly sublimated nylon or nylon mesh. And so when you think about that, that would typically be your red porthole mesh football jerseys. Anything that is going to be full color that you may have some that you fear you may have some dye migration with, that's when you want to use sublock because of its dye migration blocking properties. When you look at the back of it, it sort of has a silver blocking material, and that allows you to heat print onto virtually any color. Mostly soccer jerseys is where subblock actually comes in the highest and the best benefit, because their logos are typically full color and they're typically highly sublimated because they're polyester and dye content. And also Solutions Clear will go on nylon, but you only want to use Solution Clear. That is for light, and I mean very light, as in very light pink, very light blue, very light yellow, or white materials. I've also included links here in order to seek out either the opaque, the subblock, or Solutions Clear in order to be able to order them or, see them in person. The links on the bottom will take you right to the Stalls ID digital page, and will also take you to Transfer Express, because if Transfer Express is typically your vendor, then and you don't know that they offer digital products for you in order to be able to heat apply onto nylon, which typically you can't, we've already talked about screen print onto without an additive, and they don't really offer any screen printed transfers available for nylon. If they're your favorite vendor, then just so you know, you can offer a full color transfer for nylon through them. And I also wanted to show you some videos, because while we're talking about decorating, so we've seen all the things that are blank that you can decorate onto. And I do have about 4 just simple 1-minute videos. There's no sound to them, but it's going to show you all these neat different things that you can heat apply, and each of them conveniently are nylon. So we'll start off with the nylon golf shirt. And and we'll take this full screen. And as you can see, he's loading it onto the platen. And he's just going to do a left chest logo. And what's nice in this video, it actually has precise application instructions. So our temperature is 305, because nylon does typically require a lower dwell time, a lower temperature, and a longer dwell time. And what's nice about this idea of being able to print onto just about anything, that, a lot of decorators are afraid to print on nylon, and so it's really helpful to learn that really you can print on virtually anything with a heat press. Here it is. And so he's going to press it a second time. And this is the Solutions Opaque that he's using that I discussed earlier, that as you can see, it's going on a dark fabric. It requires 2 presses, a pre-tack type of press, and then you peel off the mask. And then there we have it. So the second is printing onto a nylon duffel bag. And I just did a webinar last month, and one of Decorator's largest challenges is actually printing onto backpacks and duffel bags. And so here we see with some interchangeable platens how easy it is. He's got the round bagger platen. He's actually printing onto the end of a duffel bag. And who can guess what material this is made of? That's actually Cordura, and you can see because it's so thick. And he's also using opaque. He's pre-pressing, slightly preheating the garment. And for those of you that don't see the value in preheating, I've actually talked to a lot of decorators that often call and they wonder, why are my designs falling off, or why aren't they adhering properly? And usually the first culprit of that is not preheating. And I know sometimes that we want to maybe cut some corners, we want to save some time, but the benefit of preheating, and if you make it a practice, it's something you will always do. It just then becomes habit. But oftentimes you're going to get materials and garments from the supplier and they've absorbed moisture. And the purpose of preheating is to get out as much of that moisture as you can in order to get optimal adhesion. So there we have, onto a duffel bag it goes. And then the third one is a Cordura backpack. So as I stated earlier, most decorators have a super hard time decorating onto backpacks and duffel bags. So we've just seen how it can be done. And all of these are actually done with opaque, but you can use any of the heat transfer materials that I listed prior on any of these materials. So on this backpack, you don't necessarily have to use opaque. Why not use a 3M Scotch Light Reflective for back to school? And again, we can see the preheating. He's actually doing this on a cat press, which if you have a cat press would make that decorating of that small logo super easy. You can see it. He's having no problems with it, no problems getting it onto the platen. But I don't see why you couldn't do that on the round bagger as well, or one of the smaller interchangeable platens. If you don't have a cat press, I don't want you to think that you can't heat apply onto backpacks, because you can. And if you only have a 16 by 20 and you don't have any interchangeable platens, what you want to do is use a Print Perfect pad. And you can order that from Stahl's ID Direct, and it's just almost like a mouse pad, and you would just insert that into it. And the difference between a pad and a pillow is that heat printing pillow, the design actually depresses into, so that's when you want to use it for like zippers, buttons, snaps. So your heat printing area actually depresses into the pillow in order to get clear and even adhesion. And what a heat printing pad does is it actually elevates the area. So what you're really doing is maneuvering around zippers, buttons, and snaps. And you always want to use a heat printing pad when you're using a digitally printed product and not a pillow. Please note, never a heat printing pillow with a digital product. And then here's our final one. And I saved this one for last because you're probably going to ask, what? He's heat printing onto a beach chair? Yes, he's heat printing onto a beach chair. So the purpose of this is to show you that, it's not just for jerseys, nylon sporting apparel, when we think about that, or even nylon, like dance and garments. There's so many things that are made of nylon that you can see here aren't really apparel at all, but that can be logoed. So it just really allows you to be able to say yes to every single job, or to offer things that your competitors are not offering, and giving you, flexibility. The interchangeable platen that he's using is what we call the shortstop, and that is actually also good for youth garments. It's also good for doing hip designs. It's good for doing rear end designs. It's good for youth garments. So it would actually eliminate, on the Fusion particularly, it would eliminate the need for using a heat printing pad or a pillow, because you could just slide it right onto the platen in order to save time. So let's move into the accessories. So the number one thing that I think we always have to remember when working with nylon, or when you're working with a nylon that you haven't printed, or a material that you haven't printed on nylon, is to test. We talked a little bit about the heat printing pillows. So when you're thinking about any type of nylon woven baseball jersey or football jersey, that's when it's good to use a heat printing pillow. And remember, if you're using a digital design, you want to use a heat printing pad for the same purpose. And then also cover sheets. Now it's really up to you whether you want to use what we call a craft cover sheet or a non-stick cover sheet. But one thing to note is the finish that's available. And so the difference between those two, a nonstick cover sheet will give you a shinier sort of texture when heat applied. It's also reusable over a long period of time. And when you order it, you will receive one. When you order the craft paper, it comes actually in a pack of several sheets of craft paper. Even though it is reusable, it's not reusable as much as the nonstick cover sheet. And it will also give you a matte finish when heat printing. And so it's really a matter of preference. Some people love craft paper. Some of my customers love nonstick cover sheets. I personally prefer craft paper. And the heat eraser that's showed in there, even though I don't mention it, I did want to show it. Some of your heat printing materials for nylon are going to be a cold peel. And in order to expedite that process, you're going to want to use a heat eraser, which is literally, I think they're like $5 to order. They may even be less, like $3. And you just rub it on and it draws the heat out, and that way you're able to peel that much faster. And also, it's perfect for cleaning the top platen of your heat press, you know, just kind of like once a night or every night when you close up, because the top platen of your heat press is made of a nonstick coating. While it's still warm or hot, you can use that heat eraser just to get off any dust or debris that's accumulated throughout the day. The flexible application pad, which is showing here, is actually pretty much for nylon. So there's a couple things that happen over time with nylon. If you are not lowering your temperature and extending your dwell time, oftentimes you'll get what we call a heat printing box. And it's sort of that off-color box of the entire top platen that I've heard people mention. Typically it will fade, either with washing, but there's definitely a way to prevent it, and that's by using the flexible application pad. Now, when you use the flexible application pad, it's actually made of silicone. It does have a type of dimension to it, so it will create sort of a dimension on your design, which actually looks really cool. But you're going to want to extend your dwell time when using the flexible application pad. Because it's made of thick silicone, you will need to extend 3 to 5 seconds in order to get proper adhesion. But if you are going to apply onto nylon, the flexible application pad is the must-have accessory in order to apply onto nylon. It'll help you eliminate that heat printing box, and it will also help for better adhesion. And then, as I already mentioned, the interchangeable platens. And the nice thing about the platens is these will allow you to print on virtually any and all substrates, as we saw in the videos that I showed you. Layout boards and thermo tape. Inevitably, you're going to have to line up either some pre-cut designs or some already or some pre-spaced designs. And this is where the layout boards and thermo tape are really helpful. And they just help you line up, as you can see, with the straight edge, or the actual moon-sized edges will help you create an arch. And they also are measured, so they'll help you space and line up designs with ease. And then the thermo tape you would want to tape on, because it's actually specifically made for heat printing. So you can tape down your design, and you can tape them down ahead of time on all of your shirts, and then that way you won't get that sort of movement, so you're not heat applying actually on your press, you know, or actually lining up is what I'm trying to say, on your press. So you won't get any slipping, and then you heat apply with it, and then when you open your platen, you can just pull the tape off and boom. It is an absolute must-have accessory. So I also included in here some additional resources that you can find. Most of these are from Stahls ID, but also from Imprintable's warehouse. And it's the material fabric selection chart, which when you go to it and I'll also include the link in my blog post, because it's a really helpful resource when thinking about heat transfer materials and which ones are good for what material. And then there's also a comparison chart that's going to tell you, will it give you a matte finish? Will it give you a shiny finish? And so in order to help you narrow down what the best material is for the job you're trying to do. And then, of course, we all always wonder about Pantone. And then we all need application instructions. And then we also have a heat transfer vinyl selection chart from Imprintable's warehouse. I've also included some resources from Transfer Express, Easy Prints Explained, application tips for their digital designs and also for their other easyprints.com, glossaries of terms, and some sales flyers that are free to you to access, to use. So please go there. They're an absolutely free resource in order to create sales flyers at no cost to you. And then if you are thinking about print and cut digital transfers, some resources available to you are the digital color palette, also the pricing calculator, which when you go to it, it'll allow you to input how many of each design you need, the size of the design you need, and the material, and you will be able to get pricing, on the spot pricing for your customers, so you can actually deliver a quote right then and there. And then also application instructions from Transfer Express and Stalls ID Direct. And so I would like to, can I go back to the next slide for just a second? Let me pull this. I'm sorry, let me pull out the questions box here. Keith, which slide were you referring to? I will gladly go back to it. You know, that's funny, Lou. You asked for a suggestion for storing rolls, scraps, and identifying them. And it's so funny because it seems like at certain times, oh, the one before the resources. Okay, let's go back to that one. It seems that at certain times, I have a recurring theme. And I was actually, in the last 2 weeks, have been asked this question an umpteen amount of times. So there's different ideas that I have actually seen for storing rolls. Am I on the right? So before the resources. So this, Keith, is this the one you were referring to with the layout boards and the thermo tape? No, the next one. This one here, material fabric selection. Yes. Okay, good. So Lou, when we think about storing, they have several options available. Now, some of my customers use racks and just kind of stack them on sort of shelving. Others use sort of racks that you actually put on the wall that almost look like spool holders that you can get from various types of vendors such as Sign Warehouse. You're welcome, Keith. Sign Warehouse and you know, other vendors. And so you could put those on your wall, and then it would actually kind of, I don't know if any of you sew, but it would look like, so they would be lined up sort of like different, like a spool holder is really the only way I can help offer you a visual for it. A lot of my customers also said they print up labels for their materials and put it on the inside of the cord, or they label it in some kind of way. And as far as scraps, you might just want to either have a box or a bag, and maybe you could just even have a little label on the back and just kind of, you know, thumb through it. I guess on our Facebook page, maybe we will ask our Facebook heat printing community how they store their rolls, their scraps, and what sort of different techniques they use for identifying them. But I think it's a great topic for a webinar, perhaps even next month or September, because it has been a recurring theme, and I'm talking like 5 or 6 times I've been asked this question over the past few weeks. So once again, I would like to thank everyone for attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in. I will gladly answer them for you if you had any more questions for me regarding nylon. And once again, for those of you that joined late, I don't know if you were able to hear, but this webinar is being recorded. It will be posted on greatgarmentgraphics.com under the Archives tab, or under the Blogs tab, which will actually be posted on Monday. But the easiest thing for you to do is go to greatgarmentgraphics.com, sign up for our blog, and you'll actually receive my blog post, a PDF of the slides, any additional links that I'm going to include, and a recording of the video right to your inbox, so you don't really have to seek it out. And then you'll also get each upcoming blog into your inbox in order to kind of keep up on the industry for those of you who are new heat printers. And also it's really beneficial for those of you that have been in the industry for a while. So I have listed here again some additional resources, ways to get to stalls.com, Transfer Express, T-shirt forums, I think I mentioned already, is an invaluable resource when it comes to um, the garment industry. Anything and anything you would ever want to know really is on there. And then of course YouTube. You know, I've learned how to do a million things watching YouTube videos. Great garment graphics. You can also find our webinars on YouTube. They will be posted on YouTube, and then you can also, if you'd like to review the 1-minute videos that I did show, you can find those on YouTube as well. So join us for our next webinar, and that is starting your home t-shirt business, which I actually think goes great with the topic that we were just talking about. That's going to be presented by Transfer Express on August 8th. So if you just bought your heat press, if you know anybody who is doing research on how to and wanting to get started in the t-shirt business, this is definitely the webinar for them. And also for those of you that have been in the business for a while, maybe you want to join and just see if you can refresh, you know, because it never ever hurts to go back to the basics, ever. Usually, you know, some things for me can get sort of confusing and overwhelming, and it's like, okay, wait, let's just get back to the basics and right where I started so I can refocus, get recentered, and also re-energized when it comes to my business. And then our next webinar in this series is Get to Know Polyester. And excuse the typo, everything you need to know in order to decorate polyester, which will be August 22nd from 2 to 3 Eastern Standard Time. So I would like to thank everyone for joining me. I see that there are no more questions. So with that, let's sign off and make it a great day.